Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Arthritis Action Podcast. I'm Marc, as always, your host, and today joining me is Leah Marshall. Leah, like many of you listening, has been living with arthritis for many years and is here to talk to us today about something I don't think we've covered on the podcast before, but it's something I'm very much looking forward to talking about, and that's her experiences and the help she's received from perhaps not the first charity you'd think of when it comes to arthritis, but support dogs. So really looking forward to talking about, well, any chance to talk about dogs is always good for me. So very much looking forward to this one. So hello, Leah.
Hello. How are you, Marc? All right?
Yeah, I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Thank you. Like I said, any chance to chat about dogs, which are like the best things ever, I'm always up for. So thank you for joining me today. And I suppose, yeah, we should probably start off with if you could tell us a little bit more about yourself and your experience with arthritis.
Yeah, of course. So I'm 38 years of age. I live in a seaside town of Christchurch, so along the south coast. I live with my husband, my lovely Australian Labradoodle Alfred. That's my support dog. Bruce, my cat. That's me, essentially. In regards to my arthritis, I started developing symptoms of arthritis when I was around about the age of 13. At the time, I had the very typical stiffness of arthritis, and obviously that lasted for quite a few years. And also, along with that, I also had chronic fatigue. So that's always impacted me quite heavily. But back then, I can remember how bad it was. And I wasn't actually diagnosed until I was around about 16, 17. And it was all I remember is it being between when I left school and when I started college. That's when the major kind of issues kind of started. The reason why it wasn't picked up before then was mainly because at that age it was you go to the doctor's, oh, it's growing pains, it's growing pains.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That very typical, that's what's going on. And obviously being of the age of 13 anyway, it's quite difficult to understand what's going on. So it wasn't until, like I said, between the ages of 16 and 17, I could basically not get out of bed. And it started in the bottoms of my feet. So it's a case of not being able to put any pressure on my feet, whether that's the balls of my feet, my toes. And it was simple things like I couldn't fall asleep with a duvet on top of my feet because just that pressure would mean I'd be in such chronic pain, or I couldn't pick up a handbag, or I couldn't pick up a tray with a teapot and cups on it to walk around the house to make yourself a cup of tea kind of thing. And it was at that kind of stage where, obviously I went to the doctors, and that's when I was diagnosed with arthritis. All I remember at the time is being put on various medications, the typical medications that you get when you get on arthritis.
Yeah.
But all I remember is being mentally and physically exhausted all of the time, along with extreme pain, like the most intense and most horrific pain that I've ever felt in my life, constantly, all the way throughout the day. And it was in my feet, so it impacted everything from standing up off my chair, getting out of bed, walking from room to room. So from that kind of age, it impacted me quite a lot. I didn't really have a social life, etc., because it went from me being relatively active when I was at school. I loved sports, running around, relay, sports day, loved it, to not being able to really do a lot. Me being of the age of 17, after about 6 months, I was like, well, this isn't working because my pain was so bad. I wasn't seeing any kind of improvement after they kind of gave me the medications. So again, being that kind of age, I'm like, well, I'm not taking the medication anymore because I can't see any more improvement. And then the next biggest flare up I had, I was round about the age of 25. And I would just remember us having the most extraordinary heat wave, like really, really loads of heat, which we'd not had for years, and it put me back in bed again. I couldn't get out of bed. And it was not the change of temperature, but the sheer heat. I've always been typically a cold person. I'm always wrapped up. And then all of a sudden, the sun comes out and I'm like, I can't get out of bed. What's going on? So I went back to the consultants, put me all back on the same medication again. No different than what I was on when they put me on it on 17. And did a load of x-rays, reconfirmed everything that we already knew, and was like, I don't understand. He goes, you're so bad, I don't actually understand how you can get out of bed because of how bad my toes, feet and my ankles were. He goes, clinically, you shouldn't even be able to get out of bed. And I'm like, but I do, and I have been, and that's how I'm going to continue my day to day, because if I don't, I would probably end up in a wheelchair or stay in bed for the next 20 years.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that was essentially that, and I've still got the same consultant now. So what am I, 38? So I've been seeing him quite a while, and I'm like, right, I'll follow you anywhere. Do you know what I mean? Because I've really had the support from him. That's pretty much my journey in regards to arthritis.
Excellent. Wow. I mean, say excellent. That's not excellent, of course, but you know what I mean.
I know exactly what. Yeah, I know.
Obviously, you had a big sort of like need for a little bit of extra help and support in that.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
so I think we got in touch through an article that we read about you and support dogs. So
Yeah.
what was it then that made you go, say, from that stage of your arthritis to think I need
So
like that kind of help? I mean, because
yeah.
that's not what people think of as your first
No,
stop,
no, no,
really.
absolutely. So you hear of a lot of the like typical symptoms of stiffness, of pain within your joints. So typically, I've always had a lot of trouble on my feet anyway. That hasn't gone away. Yes, the medication supports it, and would I say it helps with the pain? Not necessarily. It's kind of a case of I've just managed it for so long because of, I suppose, where it impacts me. So it impacts me on my feet, on my knees, on my hands, my wrists, my shoulders, etc. And with the medication that I'm on, even though I'm on a relatively good dose, I've been on it for such a long time. I'm going to be on this for the next 30 years. That's not going to change. So obviously the impact of all the medication I've had already and with what I'm going to continue to have is going to have some impact. So it's a case of my doctors kind of managing it so it doesn't make me worse, if that makes sense.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So obviously with that, my flare-ups can typically I have flare-ups every day. It can be quite minor and it can be quite big. It does mean that I have a lot of issues still with stiffness. I have a lot of issues like bending down, kneeling down. I've got my knee that swells a lot, and it's basically always swollen. Sometimes it can be like the size of a football, and that's where I would really struggle on a day-to-day basis, because that I don't think you realise how much you use your knees all the time.
Yes, yeah. No, you never know until you injure or have a problem with an area. Like I had no idea I used that body part so much.
Yeah. So for me, so obviously you have those up and downs. I'm very lucky. I'm a very positive person, and like I said, I'll always get up every day, always get out of bed. I'll always do something to keep me going. But we always have times where we do struggle. And with anything else, I'll always have my lows as well as I do my highs. And I think at that particular time, I was on a bit of I was having quite a few flare ups in a majority of different places, and it was ongoing for years, and it was constant. And I was just getting to a bit of a low point, and I'm like, what else can I do? How else can I support myself? I've got a great family, a great husband that have always kind of supported me with my health anyway. And I think it was just getting to me a little bit too much at the time. And I think I was just typically Googling what can support with my mental health, and I've got arthritis and all these kind of things. And I come across support dogs, but you find very little information when it comes to arthritis and any assistance dog. It's there, but it's trying to find it. I think I'd come across an article that mentioned somebody that had arthritis and they're being assisted by support dogs. And I had a look at it, and I kind of had a look at the website and kind of was like, oh, okay. So it was more at the time of just trying to find out what was out there for me at the time. And then obviously I got Alfred, and that's when I kind of went back to it, and I remembered it from that time. And I think I kind of stuck with it for a couple of months thinking about it before I acted on it. And then I applied for it online. So yeah, that's how that started.
So when you apply for it, do you then do you need to have a dog already with the support dogs? Because I imagine what most people would be picturing is you contact support dogs and they provide you with a support dog.
Right, so with support dogs, they support autism, epilepsy, and disability.
Mm-hmm.
So my understanding is with the disability, they will support with pet dogs. That's my understanding.
Right.
I wouldn't want to say 100%, but they do both depending on the support that needs to be provided.
Yeah, different levels for different.
Absolutely, absolutely. So yeah, in this case, obviously Alfred was my dog, and they trained Alfred and supported with Alfred. So that the process was quite lengthy. It wasn't like applied and done. But it was a good long process. So obviously, from when I found all the information online, they've got a disability pack that you can download, like a disability yes, assistance program, like downloadable brochure that you can read to give you like additional information on it. It kind of gives you like all the criteria and walks you through not necessarily what's expected, but what's also needed from the owner of the dog as well, essentially. And it basically is, if you're still interested, give us a shout in regards to filling out their online form. So I filled that out, and it's a case of, obviously they review all the information. They then contact you for what's called like an information day. So they kind of like go through the information again with you. And then they would then contact you. It kind of works in stages. So just because you've had that initial consultation and this initial information doesn't mean that you've been accepted. So it is quite a lengthy process, because they've got to make sure it's right, not just for yourselves, but also for your dog, making sure the dog's, right as well to be a support dog. So yeah, so that was the initial assessment. And then I think I had literally another 6 to 7 assessments after that point, before I was then told, yes, we're going to go ahead. Obviously, it's just really important for them to just make sure the welfare of both us and the dog is right, and that Alfred can do his work daily. But yeah.
Excellent.
But it was a long, hard process that I'm really glad I stuck with. It's probably one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life, I'm not going to lie. I thought Alfred was pretty trained before support dogs had him for a period of time. So once you go through that process of them double checking everything and going through, we go through all the same things over and over again, making sure everything's 100%. And then Alfred goes off then to them for 4 weeks in Sheffield. They've got a training centre.
I was going to ask about that, because I was wondering if it was like dog training classes where you just take your dog there for an hour every Wednesday, or if it's
it's a little bit different. It is a little bit different. So yeah, dog training classes, they're an hour, but with their dedicated training centre, what happens is I and Alfred would have a specific trainer. In my case, I had the lovely Katie, and Alfred was supported by a volunteer, where Alfred would stay every night. He would stay every night by a volunteer. And then by day, he was at the training centre with Katie. And literally, they would do everything together. all his new tricks, like picking up and emptying the washing machine and filling up the washing machine, and you name it, they did it for 4 weeks non-stop. And then myself and Rob, my husband, come up with me, and essentially me, we then had training for 4 weeks with Alfred, kind of redoing all those things that Katie was kind of doing with him for those 4 weeks. He had his own little room where he'd spend his downtime and time where Katie was training him. Obviously, they then go out into shops and supermarkets and stuff as well. So yeah, it was really, really full on. And I tell you what, I think we did training about 6 hours each day at least. So a couple of hours in the morning, lunch, and then some hours afterwards. And yeah, it was full on. It was full on. But yeah.
Wow. So what types of things does Alfred do then? So I think a lot of people are wondering, especially for things like, because I suppose depending on what the condition is, they'll all be trained to do different types. They'll all have different roles, won't they?
Absolutely. So obviously, I briefly mentioned earlier that I struggle a lot, like bending down, kneeling down. So I struggle a lot more with my lower body, essentially. So for instance, Alfred will pick up for me, which is amazing. So he can do anything from pick up pens if I drop a pen on the floor. He can pick up pieces of paper. He can pick up pennies, pound coins, so money. He can pick up money. The remote control box for me if I drop that on the floor, or the tea towel when I'm cooking. He can find objects as well. So again, say for instance, I'm sat on the sofa and I'm having a day where my knee's really swollen or I'm feeling quite stiff, and I've left the remote control on the table or on the bench, I'll ask him to go and find it, and he can go and find it and bring it over to me. Same with my car keys and my household keys as well. I'll leave them in a specific place and I'll ask him to go and find them, and he'll go and find them for me and bring them back to me. Same with my mobile phone. He fills up and he empties the washing machine.
That's amazing. I hope you're listening to this, Flynn. So I'm talking to my dog off screen here, off mic here, because he does absolutely none of these. We joke about it all the time that we wish he would. And yeah, that'd be incredible.
Yeah, and it's a godsend for me because it means I'm not having to get that slightly lower down to be able to get to the washing machine, essentially. One of the slightly newer commands that we gave him was an up command. And that was so he could bring stuff up to my waist again, so I'm just not bending down. Yeah, so even just sometimes putting on his collar can be a bit of a struggle. So if I ask him for the up command, what he'd do is basically he's put his paws on my waist, and it means I've got some time then to be able to put his collar on or put his lead on. We also use that as well, for instance, if he helps me fill up the washing line outside. We use the same principles that we would for filling up and emptying the washing machine. So he would take it out of my laundry basket, and then so he'd pick it up for me, and then he'd come up to my waist, and I'll take it from my waist height, and then I can place it on the line, and vice versa. If I'm unpacking the washing line, I'll take it off the line. He'll come back up to my waist, and I'll pass it to him, and he'll put it back in the basket.
Can he fold them as well? Has
he can't fold them.
I assumed not, but I wanted to check in case. I have no idea.
Yeah, and so that's that. Well, he can take it, a typical command to take it. He's trained also to fetch help as well.
I was going to ask about that, yeah, because I mean, obviously if you ever fall or something like that and are
No,
unable
absolutely.
to get up.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think so. I'm not prone to falling, thank God. Touch wood. It's something that he's trained in anyway. It's one of them. I think because unfortunately when my arthritis started in my toes and my feet, I always have to be very careful walking anyway. So I'm relatively balanced, quite a slow paced, balanced walker, because it's one of those, because of the pain that comes with if I have an issue with my feet. So fetching help is something that they support with anyway in the training. I've not used it yet, but then again I don't fall very often.
Yeah.
But that being said, obviously, like I said, I had an operation a couple of weeks ago, and myself and my husband were in 2 separate rooms, and I think he kindly made me dinner, and I think I'd asked him to shut the door because he was probably listening to something a little bit too loud. And I'm trying to get his attention because obviously not long after I had my operation, I'm getting too warm and flustered, and I needed him to move my tray and my food away from me. And I got Alfred to go and fetch help. And even though Rob had the door closed, he managed to scrape on the door with his nails to indicate Mummy needs help. And Rob come out a couple of minutes later going, "Oh, did you ask for help?"
Amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, so cool. What type of dog is Alfred, by the way? I don't think we mentioned that.
So Alfred is an Australian Labradoodle. So they were bred in Australia as therapy dogs. He's 5 years old. He was 5 yesterday. He was.
Happy birthday, Alfred.
He's a mixture of various different breeds, and it does mean he's extremely excitable because of the breeds.
Oh, yeah, I was going to say, there's a few questions I was going to ask around breeds. Are there some dogs that they don't recommend to be sport dogs?
Yeah, so yes and no. I don't know specifically. I know I've seen many different shapes and sizes and various different breeds with sport dogs, but I do know that when you go through the application process anyway, they'll talk through that with you, so that they would have a better understanding of what the dog is, what the breed is, what their traits are. And with that, the process of understanding what, say, my needs would be and what the dog would then be doing, obviously then they would make a decision as what works best for both parties, essentially.
Okay. Yeah, because I have a greyhound myself, and greyhounds like other greyhounds, and whenever we pass this stall on a market, they have a greyhound as well.
Yeah.
And it's in the midst of being trained to be a support dog.
Oh,
and I
amazing.
never thought that greyhounds would be able to do that, because they're the laziest creatures on earth.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, they sleep like 20. He's asleep now as I speak. I was speaking to him earlier. He wasn't listening, I guarantee it. But yeah, so I mean, it's interesting to know that all dogs are kind of capable of it potentially.
Yeah.
Excellent. So how do you think you know if a support dog is the right choice for you? I mean, obviously, how did you decide that a dog was what you needed to help you?
Obviously I'm a dog lover anyway, so that was a huge part in the decision. And I think that, I suppose for me, it was a case of understanding what my needs were, and I suppose understanding what my own limitations were, or are, I should say. And don't get me wrong, at first, I didn't know whether or not it was the right decision or whether or not I'd even be accepted. Because I'm like, Oh yeah, but I've only got arthritis. I appreciate I do struggle. I've struggled for a long time, but it was a case of I think at the time not even understanding if because I've got arthritis they'd be able to support. So I kind of went through that process first to understand if they could. And then by the time we kind of gone through that process and I had a better understanding of what they can support Alfred with i.e. all those things that we just talked about, all those different commands, then I knew that was the right decision for me. Okay, I appreciate that just picking up a pen isn't a great deal to a lot of people, but when I know that I struggle to kind of get down there, because like I said, I struggle a lot with more of my lower body, it helps massively.
I'm sure a lot of people listening to this will fully understand the problems that picking up something as simple as a pen can be, because it's such a huge undertaking
Yeah,
sometimes.
absolutely. And it's something as simple as when Alfred comes in the shops with me, I can ask him to pick something off the bottom shelf and he'll bring it to my waist level for me. It could be a tin can, it could be a packet of crisps, and that makes all the difference. It really does. So I had to kind of start that process first before knowing if it was the right decision for me. I think at the time, thinking about what is available, charities or therapy, etc., exercise, I'd already done some things, and as much as they can help, you know what I mean? I wasn't in a position where I was getting any benefit, if that makes sense. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, yeah.
So I needed something to make a difference, essentially.
Hmm.
And that's why I thought that support dogs would help. Yeah.
Excellent. Excellent. I mean, it's one of those. I know a couple of people with support dogs for
Mm-hmm.
arthritis as well.
Yeah.
So I do understand like how useful that can be. But as I
Yeah,
said, it's not the usual thing you'd think of, really, would you?
absolutely. Absolutely. And that's how I kind of felt when I was applying. So what you do, I mean, I wasn't too sure myself. So I'm kind of really glad that I stuck with it and just carried on with it. It's been hard work with the training. And he graduated, what are we now? April. We graduated March last year. I think we graduated. So do you know what I mean? It was a good lengthy progress
Hmm.
to or process to get to where we are.
Excellent. One thing you mentioned earlier, actually, I was curious about, because speaking about the energy levels of different dogs, and I
Mm.
imagine different dog, yours sounds very energetic. And as someone with problem like with pain in their feet
Yeah,
and also their hands as well,
yeah, yeah.
how is walking a dog? Because dogs will need a certain amount of exercise and so on.
Yeah, yeah, of course. So, so for me in particular, obviously, like I said, I've obviously always had my issues with feet, and it's always a bit of a difficult one. I always have to plan everything that I do. So when I walk somewhere with Alfred, it is always a case of knowing that I can sit down somewhere or plonk myself down somewhere if I'm struggling physically. But Alfred is walked every day. He has off lead walks as well. And that's something my husband supports massively with. And it's also one of the criteria for support dogs as well. So obviously, your dog's going to be working for you, supporting you picking up, supporting you unloading the washing machine, for instance. So therefore, do you know what I mean how we support the dogs? It's just making sure they're getting that exercise every day.
Yeah.
And for me specifically, that's where my husband comes in a lot. But obviously, there's loads of things. I say loads of things. There's numerous ways people can support. If they have got a loved one that can help or a friend that can help, I'm sure there's options in regards to fenced off parking areas as well for to be able to support with dog exercise as well. There's all kinds of different things that are available. And if anybody feels as though they are struggling in that respect, support dogs are quite open in that respect to having an understanding of what people's environments are and whether or not they can support and how they can support with dogs exercise. But yeah, but for me specifically, my husband helps out massively.
Excellent. Good to know that, like, even if you are a very low mobility person, there's always things you can do around it. Because I imagine some people might be scared off with the idea, like, I can't walk. How am I supposed to be able to have a dog?
Absolutely, don't get me wrong, and support dogs will be able to answer any of those questions anyway. Alfred's walked regardless of how far I can go. It might be just take me a lot longer, but he'll always get his daily walks.
One thing I think, I mean, this happens for everyone, regardless of support dogs, is there's always a mental health side to things, especially with something like arthritis, because it's going to take a massive toll on you mentally as well.
Yeah.
As everyone who has arthritis listening to this, I imagine already knows, it's having a dog around is one of the greatest mental health things I personally has worked for me in my life.
Absolutely.
As they're wonderful creatures that just brighten up your day all the time. In case I haven't banged on enough about how much I like dogs, but I know all animals in general. Actually, it's just
Yeah, no, absolutely, without a doubt. Obviously, the man's best friend, aren't they? So that's a great starting point. And Alfred gets me out of the house. When I say gets me out of the house, it's not I don't get out of the house. It's a case of I suppose when my flare-ups are so bad, that's a case of I just want to be in bed. I don't want to get up. I don't want to go out to the shop. My husband works for a supermarket. I'll let him do it. But Alfred has been able to give me the opportunity of making me feel less anxiety when I do go out, so that even when I'm really, really feeling under the weather and I'm at a supermarket and I really don't want to do this, I'm so exhausted, I know I've only come in for 10 things, but I'm just going to go find 2 and go to the self-checkout and go. I know because he's with me, I can do it. Do you know what I mean? So it's just that extra little bit of support and knowing that he's just there. Do you know?
I do.
It does make a massive difference.
Also, imagine if your mobility, say, is low, for example, from your arthritis, and a lot of people can become very isolated because you don't get the chance to go out.
Yeah.
And then if you've got this dog around with you all the time, it's a companionship as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, you end up relying on them so much. Do you know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah. You don't know what you do without them in general.
You don't know. 100%.
With flare-ups, how does he help with flare-ups?
So, for instance, I can struggle a lot with my back because where I do very limited exercise, I do it because I know I need to keep going. But where I do very limited exercise, I struggle a lot with my core, just general strength in my core. So that also impacts my back as well, for instance. Or my elbows will go as well. So when I say they go, they'll flare up to the point where I will literally, I'll tell you what, I'll show you because it's very hard to explain. I will like normal mobility, and then I literally won't be able to move them past this point. And
so you can't move it past that bend in your elbow, that 45-degree angle, so 90-degree.
Yeah, both arms won't be able to move. So obviously you can imagine what's that like mentally and physically. So I can get Alfred to help pull me out of bed.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So it'll be a bit of a jolt, but I can give him like a pulley and I can hold it and I'll just ask him for a gentle pull and he'll help pull me in an upright position.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so that saves me kind of struggling like on my elbows where they're like really sore, to kind of maneuver on the bed to kind of get up. Alfred can help me get up straight so I can get myself out of bed. That's an example. Or I suppose another simple example would be, say, with like my knee again. So it's really, really flared and I'm struggling, say, with my back and my hips and my knee. Alfred can pull my trousers off.
Wow, so you help with dressing as well.
Absolutely. Yes, we missed that, didn't we? He can help. Yeah, he can pull my trousers off. He can pull my socks off. He can help take my jumper off and my coat off. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. Not managed shoes yet. We've not tried that one yet.
I mean, laces would be a bit of an issue.
Yeah, it would be. Yeah.
You do a Velcro strap.
Yeah, but he can do my socks really gently, so he pulls it off really gently. Yeah, so if I'm getting a lot of stiffness or I just struggle with general mobility because I haven't got that flexibility, he'll take my socks off for me.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is there anything Alfred can't do?
He can't fly. Well, he flies off my decking into the garden, so.
Cool. So, I mean, where should people go? We keep talking about support dogs. How do people get in touch with support dogs and start this journey?
You can simply go onto any search engine and type in Support Dogs UK and it'll come straight up. It's the only company that I know that are called Support Dogs in any formulation, so it should be quite simple. It should be quite simple to find. They've got their own disability section on there, so you head to the disability section. You will find Alfred on there because you can help support in any way, shape or form. So little Alfred is on there. But yeah, head to the disability section. It'll give you the disability assistance pack that you can download and gives you additional information on how to apply.
Excellent. Oh, that's something I forgot to ask
Mm.
earlier, actually. Is there a charge for any of this? Because obviously it's a lot of work.
So it is all charity based. There are expectations from both parties. Obviously, they provide their training, they provide their ongoing care, and from me as a dog owner and an owner of a support dog, there are just various things that they ask us to do. Make sure that he's getting his monthly medication free treatments, etc. Half yearly examinations to double check like the health of the dog, making sure he's getting that exercise, making sure they're being looked after. Do you know what I mean? So we both have our part to play, and that will be ongoing support. So as long as Alfred is my support dog and he does work every day, then support dogs will support. So there's no charge for me, but I will continue to support dogs anyway with whatever they need. I doing this for awareness, for instance, yeah. But yeah, it is all charity based.
Amazing. And if you have a look at the episode description for anyone listening, there'll be a link to support dogs in there as well. So you can go and make that easier. You can find that way. Amazing. So thank you very much, Leah. I really appreciate your time for that. And if anyone would like to check out Support Dogs, the link, as I said, is in the episode description below, as is the link to our website as well. There's also a link to an email address should you want to ask any questions or request any future topics, anything like that. And please don't forget to subscribe, follow, share, leave a nice review if you would like. That always helps as well for the podcast. And yeah, we look forward to seeing you all again soon. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thanks, Marc.
Bye-bye.
Bye.